This episode is sponsored by Cocatel Collective, a strategic sales and marketing agency representing a highly curated portfolio of emerging beverage brands, from premium all-natural sodas, wine spritzes, and spirits all around the world.
Welcome to the In Process podcast, where we share stories of resilience and passion. We're excited that you found our YouTube channel, and we'd love to hear from you. So be sure to comment below and hit that like button. If you're enjoying these stories, be sure to subscribe and share. Enjoy the show. Hey guys, welcome to this episode of In Process. I'm Thomas.
And I'm Anjoleen. As always, big shout out to Atmosphere and the Rhyme Sayers crew for sharing their music.
And today we are excited to introduce owners of Chicago Eaters 2022 Bar of the Year, recipient of the 2023 Spirited Awards from the Tales of the Cocktail Foundation, Chicago Tribune's 2023 Food Awards for Best at Bridging Generations. Their bar has been featured and highlighted by numerous media outlets such as Time Out Chicago, the Chicago Tribune, and recently written up by our good friend Maggie Hennessy at WBEZ. Please welcome to the show, Lily Wang and Joe Briglio. Yeah, you guys can clap.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. Did I get your last name right?
You did.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good. I got a little bit of Italian. Is that that's what it is?
Yeah, there's a bit of a mispronunciation, I guess, from like the actual Italian to like what it became in America. But typically like that GL would be more of a soft sound.
Oh.
But
can you say it?
It would be like Briglio.
Briglio.
But we don't use that. Yeah, we go with
says that.
Briglio or just Briggs for
Briggs.
short.
I
Yeah.
like Briggs.
Yeah.
Awesome. How's your day so far?
Chill.
This is the first thing we're doing.
Today is like your weekend. Right?
Today,
Yeah.
pretty
This
much.
is-
Today
yeah.
today was started with some dog walks and then put some orders in, and now we are hanging with you guys.
Awesome, man.
And this is your only day closed, right? Tuesdays?
Yeah.
It is.
Nice. Well, thank you for being here.
Thanks for making the time. First and foremost, how did you guys meet?
We used to work together. We worked at a bar. It was an arcade bar downtown, and that was probably in 2016.
No, before that. Maybe
2015.
15 maybe? 2014, 2015.
I don't think 20. I think 2015.
Okay.
And this is it headquarters?
Yeah.
It was, yes.
Okay, cool. I love that. And you guys how long were you guys there before the sparks started to fly?
It was instant.
Right. The moment you walked in, like, Lily, we got a new trainee here for you. It's a new bar
Yeah,
back.
Joe.
Yeah.
Well, Joe was there first. I started.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was like the cartoon wolf with like the heart eyes. That was him.
That was me.
No, I'm just kidding. I feel like
Yeah, I'll take that.
No, it was not like. I mean, no, it was. I think we started out as like friends, but working in bar and restaurants, it's a little incestuous. It just
Right.
happens.
Yeah.
Everyone's flirting with everybody.
Kind
Yeah.
of.
I love that. I also want to mention, by the way, for listeners here, this is the first time. I think this is the first time. This is like an all front of house crew here on the show. We usually have a chef and somewhat mix of some sort, or just like a straight up business entrepreneur. But I feel like this is the first time we're just repping front of house really hard here. So this is great.
So you two met, and then did you continue to work together, or did you branch off after that?
We branched off.
Yeah, I think I had left and Joe was still there for a little bit longer.
You went to Money Gun.
Yeah, I went to.
Oh, man, I didn't
Right around the
on
corner?
street,
Uh-huh,
right
yeah.
up the street. And then we kind of just both worked separately, pretty much until this project.
Yeah, we
We had done some events together, but other than that, we worked separately until this.
Yeah, I went to, after headquarters, I went to Billy Sunday for a bit,
nice.
and then I went to Blind Barber around the corner.
Yeah.
And then, we like Lily said, we had done some events at Money Gun, some charity stuff, and then we,
Started doing pop-ups.
and then we started doing the Lunar New Year pop-ups, which eventually,
That was 2019
was the first one. Yeah.
And was that under 9 Bar?
We weren't 9 Bar yet. We were just Lily and Joe's Lunar New Year party. But that is kind of one of the reasons we decided to start branding ourselves. We weren't even at the time when we were coming up with names. We weren't even set, with the idea of opening a bar anytime soon. It was just that we knew we wanted to keep doing the Lunar New Year events, but we didn't want to call it Lily and Joe's party. So we had started brainstorming names for probably a year or so. I just had a note notes app on my phone with like random ideas.
Yeah. The naming process is tough.
Yeah.
It can
Yeah.
be brutal.
Did you have some runner-ups before?
Oh, yeah. What
9 bar?
I don't think so. I don't remember anything unless you do.
There
Like,
was, I mean, we were like, there were like buzzwords.
Wordplays and
yeah.
stuff?
We
Yeah.
had like words written down, like drag in stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I mean, I think Lucky Cat would have been, I think it's pretty common in a lot of
I
like
love
Asian-
that name.
But I feel like when I looked it up, there were so many other restaurants called, like
Yeah.
Gordon Ramsay has a restaurant called like Lucky
There's
Cat. or
also a
something.
tattoo bar down the street here called Lucky Cat Tattoo.
there
Well,
you go.
see, that's
Yeah.
why it would have never worked.
Yeah, but it is a great name, especially for a bar.
But
you
we
know.
actually really liked the name Good Fortune too. But there was a
Ooh.
restaurant that had opened. I don't know what year that was, but in Logan Square named Good Fortune.
Oh, really?
And then we
I
were
think
like, okay,
of
well,
Good
that's not
Measure.
gonna-
Just name it the original Good
Yeah.
Fortune.
Yeah.
pull the Ray's original, Ray's number 2.
Yeah.
I love that. That's awesome.
Good Fortune #1.
Well, since we're on the topic of the name itself has some significance and it's really cool. So you guys want to share a little bit about what that means?
Yeah. It's not super significant. I just kind of thought it was it's kind of like a pun in Chinese. So the way that you say if you're saying a bar, it's pronounced Joba, and the first character Jo means liquor. But 9 bar is pronounced the same thing, Joba, but Jo is 9 instead of liquor. So the pun is it's swapping out the first character for a homophone.
Okay.
Oh my God.
And then, I thought it was kind of funny. I was like asking my parents, I was like, does this make sense? And they were like, yeah, it makes sense. But
Yeah.
your parents are old. You don't know if what they think is cool with everyone.
Right.
But it was kind of cool when we had some Chinese people start coming in. They're like, oh, I get it. It's funny. I'm
We,
like,
we
okay.
did ask a couple other people too, like a few other native speakers, like, does this make sense? Like, does
Yeah.
this work? And then
But it's like their response is never like super reassuring. It's
some
like-
people get it though. Like
they're like, yeah,
I had a few people
get it.
definitely come into the bar like, I see what you guys did.
Yeah. We're validated now, but at the time we were like, let's just go with it. They get it or they don't.
Yeah.
The happy coincidence was that our address also equals 9. So
Yeah.
That's
we're,
right.
We're
There was-
216 West Cermak. So
And 9
God.
is a lucky number.
I was
so,
going to ask that.
yeah.
I was wondering.
It
That's
kind
so
of
cool.
there's a lot of I think a lot of Asians are superstitious. I think it's
Yeah.
like Korean has some lucky numbers too, and like very unlucky numbers.
Unlucky numbers
Yeah.
too.
Like
4,
4, yeah.
4 is death.
It's the same in Chinese. So I think like 8 is pretty lucky across the Asians.
Yeah, yeah.
But 9 also. So
we have a cocktail with the word death in it,
Oh.
and I think it was your mom or dad was like, you can't call it that.
Yeah.
And we just went with it.
They have
Yeah.
too many rules. There's too many superstitions.
It's awesome. I love that. One of our business partners, his other venture, they were set to open the restaurant on this one day, and I guess it was the 4th or something like that. And then his parents came by. He's like, "No, you're not opening today." Yeah. And then this is a grown man, and he's just
They
like,
walked
"Oh
in,
yeah."
they're like, shut it down.
It's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
we're not opening it
Like
today."
Gordon Ramsay.
Gordon Ramsay, shut it down.
I
My
love that.
parents are like that too. They'll get like they'll change their phone number or something. If it has too many 4s, they're like, no, can't.
Yeah,
New number. Can't use this one.
I love that.
I like that because my favorite number is 3, and I feel like I see it a lot when I'm in a really good place, and I'm like, perfect.
You're like, there it is again.
There it is again. Everything's on the right track.
3 is the magic number.
It is. So when you were doing the pop-ups and it slowly became 9 bar, when did you always know like this pop-up is going to turn into a bar?
No, I don't think we, not initially at least. I think there was maybe the idea that at some point we would want to do something, or at some point maybe there was like a possibility to do something in the restaurant space.
Yeah.
Kind of like a succession plan maybe. But we didn't, that wasn't like from the onset. We didn't
Just like
think.
the TV show Success.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, there's been a
Susan
crazy,
said that in my
crazy
head. I'm
power
just like-
struggle
I'm
behind
like,
that.
whoa, what happened?
Yeah.
No, I'm just
Tell
kidding.
me.
It's not like that.
No, nothing.
Who's Logan?
I
Yeah.
think
Like, Jesus.
It's your dad.
I think when you just work in bars and restaurants, and honestly, even if you don't, everyone kind of has that. Well, someday I'd love to have a sandwich shop, or like someday I'd love to have something. You always
Right.
kind of daydream about those things, and that was probably something we had been thinking, like, probably since we started dating, it was just kind of like we were both bartenders, and it was always like, well, if I ever had a bar, it'd be like this. And, you know, eventually another notes app, big note that I had,
I love that.
running ideas of stuff for someday, our bar someday.
Yeah, but that first New Year pop-up was really just like, I think we had the idea the year prior, and then by the time, so it would have been like 2018, and then by the time we were getting close to it, I think when we thought about actually doing it, there wasn't really enough time to plan it, so we were like, let's focus on that next year.
Yeah.
It made sense for 19. It just felt right, like we wanted to do it. That was Year of the Pig, which is my year, and Lily's mom's year. So we felt like that was a good way to kind of kick it off. But really, the idea stemmed from, I think Lily just really wanted to kind of, I don't know, like we wanted to do something together again and felt like it was cool to do it in that space. And then that felt like an idea of like, she wanted to kind of like bridge that gap between like the way we would typically kind of celebrate like a Western New Year and then with kind of all these traditions around Lunar New Year.
Yeah.
But really, it was just like, let's just throw kind of a party for our friends. And it was like a super, super cold February night. I think it was like sleeting. It was awful weather, but we had a ton of people come out. It was super fun. And then that kind of snowballed into, you know, I remember someone saying that night, like, you guys should do this once a month.
Oh.
And we were like,
well, that doesn't make
like
sense.
that's a giant compliment.
Yeah.
But it took us like 4 months to plan this. So maybe we'll do it like maybe we'll do it quarterly,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But that definitely got the idea rolling of like maybe this can be something that kind of becomes something a little more.
Right.
And that was a big I think like a big turning point for my parents too, like just convincing them that this was even something that people in the neighborhood would want, or just people in general. Like, I think so many people will venture out to Chinatown to eat, and you don't really think about going there like to drink. I mean, you
Right.
might think about going there for karaoke or something for like your night event, but you don't think of going there to drink and to party and all that. And I think, you know, my parents are not huge drinkers, really. They like to go out to eat at restaurants and stuff, but their whole life kind of revolves around this restaurant and this
Yeah.
neighborhood, so they don't really know, you know, a lot about the drinking culture. And I think when we were first trying to sell them the idea, they were like, okay, so you just want to like invite your friends here to hang out? And we were like, I mean, yes, but like
every
we're
night.
charging them. It's not
Yeah, they're gonna pay.
I think your mom was like, do they want one of the, you know, we had the really big like Lazy Susan tables, and I think she
Yeah.
was like, do you need one of the tables? And we're like, we got to move all of the tables. Like
She
this
was
is
like,
not.
what are you talking? Like,
I love
trying
that.
to sell them the idea, they were
Yeah.
just like, honestly, they had no idea what we were talking about
Yeah.
until like the actual event was happening in front of their eyes. They just like couldn't even envision what we were saying. We were like, yeah, we're gonna do cocktails and like food. They were like, what are you talking about?
There's gonna be a
They were like, coachtails where? Oh yeah.
yeah, your host stand is now a DJ
Yeah.
booth.
Right,
That's
you
right.
know.
Yeah, we were like, we're gonna do a DJ, and she was like, where? Like, where's the music gonna come from?
love
Like, we had to
that.
like rent speakers and everything.
Yeah.
So they were just like, they had no idea what we were even talking about, but they were just like, okay.
Yeah, that was a pretty large production though. Like the few years that we did it like that, like
Yeah.
we started doing it on Tuesday because they were closed on Tuesday. So we would come in like early Tuesday, like rent a
No, we
U-Haul
started,
truck.
yeah, Monday night.
Monday night, yeah,
We
like
rented a U-Haul.
rent a
parked it in the
U-Haul,
back.
clear out all the tables.
Wow.
You know,
Okay.
set up the bar, clear out the host stand, set up the DJ booth, get the speakers in there, all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, decorate, and then do that Tuesday till like midnight.
Yeah.
And then flip the room back for lunch service on
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Wow.
So it was like a very hectic, like 36 hours, but it was so much
That's
fun.
a lot.
And
Yeah.
my parents are hoarders.
Yeah.
So
Mine are too.
just imagine of what 30 years of papers that
Yeah.
they would have saved.
Old
It was just like in
receipts.
everything. It was like everything.
I love that.
A lot of cups behind the
Yeah. The
Yeah.
bar.
So the bar,
the bar-
was there always. That bar.
It wasn't in the same exact spot, but there
Oh,
was like
okay.
a bar, but it was probably like the size of
This table.
one
Okay.
of these tables.
Gotcha.
Was it the one
tiny.
in the back right
Yeah, it
corner?
was in the
Yeah.
corner. Mhm.
Okay.
And it was like the sink was not functioning. Like you couldn't like pour stuff down too fast. So we were like, okay, we can't use this sink.
I love that.
What else? The ice well was the size of this grill. Like it
Oh,
was
yeah,
like
yeah.
so tiny back there.
That's what we opened this restaurant with. Was like one of those tiny ass little ice wells.
Yeah,
So,
it was tough, but
Wow.
we made it work.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And then when were you like, we're doing it?
I would say like
2020, right?
That was definitely a
it was
COVID.
a COVID baby for sure.
I
transition,
remember,
yeah.
like I ordered some food from you guys.
Yeah.
I was like on my way to pick her up, in fact. And
I remember.
I was stopped by, and you guys were doing these sandos, and
Yeah.
yeah.
We were both out of work at the time. We were both furloughed and bored. We were spending a lot of time just doing nothing at home. And I think what had actually kind of sparked the idea was we had been hearing about cocktails to go, maybe getting legalized. And we were like, maybe this is something we can do. Like we can, prep everything at the restaurant and use their liquor license. And then we were like, but I don't know if people want to just buy cocktails. So we started thinking about like what food could we do that would travel well and be kind of like, I guess a good like, I guess food that traveled well that would be easy to like pick up.
Well,
and
you had also started posting on Instagram. Lily was just like, again, we had so much time on our hands. Was like posting this, what she called, I think you called it like a lunch tray series, which is kind of like
actually,
yeah.
It was like a Korean brand of like the metal lunch trays.
Oh, Toshiraks, yeah.
So I had ordered a couple of those, and I was just making lunch trays for lunch for us, and just posting them on Instagram. And people were like,
and with so much time on our hands too, it was like, well, what haven't we had in a while that like we really like? So like a lot of the stuff that became those first couple like 9-bar pandemic menus, right? Were like, like a katsu sandwich and like the egg salad and things like that. And so she was posting these pictures and people were like, hey, can I buy that? And we were like, okay, maybe that's where we should take this in that direction. So we kind of went
and then like a week later it was like, Lily's Sando's coming soon.
But, prior to that, like the first couple weeks of the lockdown, the Moon Palace was still open for doing a lot of delivery and stuff like that. And we had thought like, all right, if this is only going to be, I thought it was going to be a much longer kind of
just 2 weeks and we're...
Wow. 2 weeks and we're out, right? I was like, I don't know, man. I feel like this is going to be like a 6-month thing maybe, But we were like, if it's going to be a 2-week thing, let's help the restaurant out a little bit. Let's get through this kind of transitional period. So like we had kind of started posting restaurant menus like daily from Moon Palace and being like, hey, if you're outside the delivery zone, text us what you want. We'll put the order in for you and then we'll drive it personally. So like we had already been doing a little bit of stuff, kind of like on Instagram of like delivering some food and things like that. And then that just kind of snowballed into
very cool
eventually. So when someone did, people did start asking about buying those lunch trays, we were like, okay, we maybe have something there to kind of take that same model and then run with it.
I love that. Yeah, I think I want to just kind of like jump on this really quick because you guys because I want to get into like the R&D, right? Because I'm guessing you guys, it sounds like we've spent some time in Tokyo, right?
Yeah.
But so I guess like before we get there, for listeners that don't know of Lily and Joe's background, we touched on a couple bars. These two have worked at some of like the best cocktail bars in Chicago. And so outside of drawing inspiration from just your experience and background, when did you guys start to travel together and start to explore other cocktail bars in the country or the world? Was that like during the time you were thinking about 9-bar, or was that like kind of like, hey, let's take a trip together? And
No. That was before. Most of that was personal. I think,
right.
And then like Lily was saying, like I think we both, when you do this for so long, you kind of have that critical eye where you
can't turn it off.
Yeah, sometimes it's like you gotta. I'm sure you guys can relate to this, right? You go to have dinner or drinks, and you're kind of like looking at all the decor and like figuring everything out, and then sometimes you're like, I gotta turn that off and just like enjoy the experience. But also, I think it's a good thing. You can learn a lot just by watching and observing. And I think we kind of had this Rolodex, but like for me personally, like I came up doing more. Kind of like volume bar work and things like that. And then, traveling was actually, I think, how I kind of got into cocktails was like I would be going to other cities and like always find myself at the cocktail bars and not the, the bar kind of experience that I was working in.
Yeah.
And eventually I was like, man, if I like doing this and that's the experience that I like having, like maybe I would like working in that or like, I want to kind of test that muscle a little bit and see
Right.
if that's something I can do. So that it really did start through travel, and then I think we just both liked doing that, and then started traveling together, and then you just start kind of stacking those ideas.
Yeah.
I think actually our first trip together was to Vancouver, and that was like 2016
Or
or something. That was
17
like right
maybe,
when we
yeah.
started dating. And I remember we went to a bar. I think it was like in their Chinatown area.
Yeah, it's right
or
on the
maybe-
edge of
yeah.
Chinatown.
And it was like a kind of like Chinese, like apothecary type themed
Mm-hmm.
bar, but they had like Chinese bar stacks and like a lot of Chinese ingredients in their cocktails. And I was like, this is so cool. Like we don't have this in Chicago. I thought the bar was like, I mean, at the time, I don't know if it's still around, but
Yeah,
Kiefer.
Kiefer.
The bar is called Kiefer Bar. And at the
Kiefer.
time we went there, and I was like, this place is so cool. Like,
Yeah.
and Joe was like, it'd be really cool if like your family did that someday. And I think unknowingly at the time, it kind of was like what sparked our conversations.
It's
of
a
being like
restaurant slash bar kind
It's
of.
more.
it was just a
It's
it's like
definitely
a
a cocktail bar.
yeah.
But like Lily was saying, it's like right on the edge of Chinatown.
I see.
Like a lot
Yeah.
of Chinese ingredients, and like we had a great time. Like the
yeah,
cocktails
the
were
cocktails
amazing.
were good. The food was good. It
The
was
staff was or not the staff. I'm sorry. Like the crowd
Clientele,
was
yeah.
very diverse, and it was just
okay.
like one of those aha moments where, like Lily said, it was like, why doesn't this exist?
Yeah.
it was
in
definitely like
Chicago.
a more like modern bar. It wasn't like an old school
For
place
sure.
that's been around forever. But just like it was decorated really well, and I thought it was a cool
Yeah, so
idea.
I think that's probably how it sparked, was that I didn't like inject myself into that right away. Like we were still pretty new, and I was like, why don't you and your brothers like
yeah.
do something like this? And
At the time,
in Chinatown.
one of my brothers, he's a cook, and he was like, he's the one that I have two older brothers, and my middle brother is the one that has kind of been on and off helping out my parents throughout the years. Like he started as like a busboy when he was like 12,
Yeah.
and kind of would sometimes work there in the summer, or like if he in between jobs might like help them out, or on Christmas and stuff when they'd be really busy, he'd go help them.
Yeah.
But he kind of did like everything there. He like had bus, he had served, he cooks, like, so he was kind of always on and off, and he was saying like, my brother and I could maybe someday do something.
Okay. And Glenn is his name, by the
Yeah,
way.
Glenn.
Shout
that's
out to Glenn.
Shout out Glenn.
That's so cool. Is there anything from your travels that you're like, any bars that, whether it was together or separate, that you're like really inspired you? Like, is there a place that like you were like, fuck?
Oh,
this-
always,
Yeah.
always.
Is there something that comes to mind specifically?
There's a bar in again, like I don't know if it's still there. I'm assuming it is, but there's a bar in Shanghai called Speak Low
oh wow.
that is like
they're on the world's 50 best.
yeah. I mean, they're amazing.
He's like, if it's still there.
Well, I mean, like you
World's
said, like,
50
you know,
and Asia's 50
yeah.
and yeah.
I would assume they are. They're amazing. That was one that like was really inspiring for
Yeah.
us.
Well, one, it was cool because I've only gone to Shanghai with my
Family,
family,
yeah.
so like I never really got to go out.
Yeah.
But yeah, to me, it was just really cool to see a really awesome cocktail bar in Shanghai. And one of the drinks we had, I think, inspired us a lot. There was kind of like an old-fashioned drink that had Chinese five spice, and I took a sip, and I was like, this tastes like my dad's braised pork belly. I was like, when I
yeah.
think it's really tough to beat anything that strikes nostalgia in you.
Right.
Like I feel like you can't compare. And like I took one sip and I was like, I thought of my dad and
That's
like
so
eating
cool.
with him, and I was like, that's really cool.
And by the way, for listeners, his nickname's Jones.
Yeah.
Which
My dad goes by Jones.
I was looking at your food menu this morning. I was like, what is it? It's the
General Jones.
General
General.
Jones chicken wings.
The
I'm
wings,
like,
yeah.
oh, I gotta try that. That's so cool.
But that was a big. But there's always ones like there's a ton of stuff in New York we love. I mean,
Yeah.
pretty much everywhere we visited, and
Any ones in
in
particular you want
Tokyo,
to shout out?
in New York.
Yeah.
I've always been really partial to Mace. I think that they do really interesting cocktails
I've
with
never
like
heard
a lot
this
of.
one, man. This is great.
Oh yeah, they're.
I have to go. It's on the.
Yeah,
We have it on our list, but I don't know if we've been there.
they've
I don't think we've been
I
there.
think they've moved like 2 or 3
Yeah,
times.
they've moved a few times, but they're.
But their cocktail program's really interesting. Each drink is a spice or an herb inspired. So like mace, do they always have a mace cocktail?
I don't know if that's always on there, but.
Okay. But like for example, like cilantro, and then the whole drink is based around cilantro or something. But they have more obscure herbs and spices too.
Cool.
But yeah, their program's really cool. I think Bar Godo
Godo's
is
a
a
big
huge one we
one.
love. It's like a Japanese-inspired cocktail bar. Double Chicken Please, of course. We kind of pretty much based our whole Lunar New Year menu off last year, like off that idea of like the cocktails being food-inspired drinks. So
Yeah, I love that, and we can nerd out about cocktail bars
Yep.
for hours. Angela and I absolutely love to explore and experience some of these places. So, but I want to get back to y'all's bar over here, and I want to talk about kind of like this idea that you guys fix yourselves in Chinatown, and I think it's interesting that you guys I feel like there's almost a social obligation, right? To kind of give back or be a little bit more responsible by being kind of within that community. How does that kind of influence you guys when it comes to what you're doing over there? Do you guys feel any type of
I think we get
added
kind
pressure?
of asked like various versions of this question a lot, and the answer is yes. There's a huge amount of pressure, I think, to kind of be a part of the community and to not feel like I don't know, can't find the words. I think there's a huge amount of pressure of like trying to do everything with intention.
Yes,
If that makes sense.
100%.
Being respectful, I think, is a
Right.
big thing, and not coming in. You know, our intention from the start was never to like. We saw a need for this,
Yeah.
and one of the things I think we thought was if we can slot in as just a different experience to kind of like round it out and for people to maybe like extend their night or their day or whatever, like maybe you're coming down for dinner and you want to come a couple hours earlier now
Yeah.
to have a drink by us, or maybe you're having dinner and then you come have a drink by us and then you hit karaoke or you do dessert or boba tea or something like that, right? Like
Right.
it was never, the intention was never to come in and like shake it
business
up
away,
or
yeah.
like disrupt or like any crazy thing like that. The idea was always to come in and like be a part of the community and like be respectful and just fit into this like ecosystem that already exists, right? It was not to come and like wipe it out and be like, yo, things need to change. It was just
Right.
like, no, there's maybe like a tiny little thing missing here that we can kind of provide based on what we've done in the past.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think what Joe had said, like about kind of what we saw as the need. I think kind of touched on this earlier that so many people come to Chinatown to eat, but if they want to continue their night or do something else after,
Have that cocktail bar experience.
yeah,
you know?
then maybe they have to leave the neighborhood to do that, and that I think was always disheartening. Like someone might like to a lot of people, Chinatown can be far. Someone might, if they're coming from the north side, they might have driven an hour just to
Right.
go eat at some restaurant that they wanted to try something at, and then suddenly they have to go somewhere else. Like they have to go to
Right.
another neighborhood now because they want to continue their night. And I always saw ourselves as like kind of filling that void. Now people can have the kind of more complete American night out where it's like maybe you go there and have a drink before dinner or something, and
Right.
then you go have dinner, then you do karaoke after, or you grab dessert or something. Now you can have this kind of whole encompassing experience without having to leave Chinatown.
I love that, and I for what it's worth, like just like hearing you guys and the kind of like like the sensibility you guys have towards being in that neighborhood. Just hearing you guys saying things like, "Well, we wanted to be a part of it." I'm like, every bit of you guys is already that, right? Like you don't have to sell anybody on the fact that like, your family has been doing business there for a long time. Your family is part of that community. You guys are enriching that neighborhood. You guys are adding, and supplementing to that neighborhood. And for what it's worth, like just between on a personal level, I've had a lot of conversations with our good friend Spencer, who owns Triple Crown in that neighborhood, and we've talked about challenges of doing business in Chinatown, and I always like kind of talk to him about like the ABCs, right? And for people that don't know, it's like American born Chinese, right? It's like the second generation. It's like we're always kind of like looking at this and saying like, well, Andy and I are trying to like preserve and push forward this idea of preserving some version of Korean culture. And I always like ask Spencer, I'm like, man, like, how come I don't see this as much in the Chinese community? And I'm sure there's a ton of it, but like here in Chicago, to see you guys do this was really cool for me. Like, you guys are putting Chinatown back, you know, not that it's off the map, but like putting something new in there that is exciting for people to go and travel to, and it's like another reason to go and explore that neighborhood. And I absolutely love that. Like, you know, and I think that the more we can kind of like shift that dialogue of what like these Asian neighborhood, Asian businesses, whatever like that conversation is, you know, to push it in a new direction and a new light, you know, and show excellence in that, right? It's kind of like one thing that we always talk about, like Asian American excellence and like what's happening here and pushing this thing forward. So it's really cool, and I love and admire what you guys are doing. And for people that don't know, we did our holiday party last year, the Perilla staff party. We had dinner in Chinatown at Triple Crown, and then moved over to Nine Bar. These guys were so gracious. They opened their doors on a closed night for us and let our entire team just have at it and just enjoy themselves.
They got wasted.
It was a lot of fun. They still talk about it as we're gearing up
awesome.
for holiday staff party conversations. There's already like, let's go back to Nine Bar. And I'm just like, all right, we'll see.
Well, we'd be happy to have you again.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
also, thank you so much for those kind words. It feels validating. I mean, I think we're just trying to just kind of be true to ourselves, but it is always nice to hear the impact that can mean for other people.
Yeah. I can. What's the name of that cocktail, by the way? It's so
Paradise Lost.
The Paradise Lost.
Paradise Lost.
Obsessed.
If you haven't been to Nine Bar, you go and try this cocktail. I
I need to go and try it.
Yeah,
'cause
that's
I
right.
wasn't
You were
drinking
drinking
when-
at the time.
Oh yeah.
I was just smelling it.
right.
Yeah, I
Everyone was
remember you were
ordering it,
like-
and I was like,
Just wafting every cocktail.
I'm like, describe it, just in details.
I
You're
remember.
like, oh, you got a Paradise Lost smell.
I remember
go
we were
back for
like
it.
probably halfway through, and I was just like, "Hey, where's our tab at?" We wanted to like hit a minimum, and like we're like so far from it. I'm like, "All right, I got to turn it on here." I'm like, and I just started. I think I put down like 8 or 9 of those fucking things.
They go down quick.
They
Yeah,
do. They're so
ridiculous.
delicious. But well, we can definitely. You want to touch on that cocktail a
Well,
little bit?
I want
'Cause-
to touch on something else you said because again, thank you for the kind words. But
Yeah.
like, you know, like you said, like Spencer is, I think, someone who's kind of done what we've done in a different way. You know, he kind of took over this long-standing family business, and like, there's a template there, and there's people who have come before us that have done that, and like, and even like you said about, you know, how you guys had the holiday party that night. You know,
Yeah.
you went to Triple Crown, then you came by us. Like
Right.
that's what we want to see. And like, also thank you for that. You know, like when we were starting, I think even before we opened the physical space, like there's a lot of people that like I think we look up to and respect as like coworkers and peers and all that.
Yeah.
That like really like gave us a lot of confidence, like from the start, of like people who've had and done what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then would like come in and be like, this is great, you know, like keep going. And that like that meant the world to us. So
Oh, awesome.
it's important, you know, like you talked about community before, you know, like, and how we view ourselves in that community. Like we're also part of this community, and like to have that like camaraderie and like
Yeah.
people lifting each other up is really important. So thank
Yeah.
you for that.
Of
Yeah.
course. I feel like that's just a testament to Chicago's hospitality industry and like the community that we are so grateful to have here, and just constantly like lifting each other, supporting each other. And, you know, the more we do that, you know, it's just exciting to see,
Yeah. Well,
you
thank
know,
you.
because we don't have that in other cities. So.
But let's talk cocktail.
Yeah. So let's start with this cocktail first and foremost. 'Cause-
So, I mean, there's like kind of a long backstory to that, and again, this goes back to like traveling around and like, you know, I think the idea of like a clarified milk punch.
Yeah.
Some people hate them, some people really love them. I fall on the love side.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I had some through travels. Like I had one at Speak Low. I've had a ton at Mace through the years. And there's just like there's a textural thing that's achieved when you do that.
Yeah.
Like if for anybody who doesn't know, like that process comes about as a way of like preserving. So
Right.
when you let the fats and the acids all react together and you pull those proteins out, what's left is a very shelf-stable ingredient at the end. That can kind of exist, I guess. I've never tried this, but like my understanding is that it can exist without refrigeration. So this was like a very old school method of preservation. But the byproduct of that is this like silky smooth texture.
Yeah.
A lot of the harsher flavors get kind of softened, and everything kind of melds together in this really beautiful way. So like I started doing those pretty early, and then it like naturally evolved into this one that we have now, which is I think my favorite version of it that we've done so far.
I love it.
So it's really a tiki cocktail at heart. We do it with coconut milk, so that way it's like it's
that's
vegan
what it
friendly,
is.
it's lactose free, like it's good for
Yes.
everybody. But it's got coconut milk, ube, pineapple, citrus, 4 rums, some mango,
Oh my
and
God.
and some amaro. And like I said, in true tiki fashion, if you could do something with
Jesus.
1 rum, why not use 3 or 4?
So this is I'm learning this for the first time here. I usually don't do rum cocktails. Like
Yeah,
that's
that's
usually that
love
is.
rum.
And you loved it. See?
I loved it, man.
had
It
9
was
of
so
them.
You had 9.
good. I had to meet the name of the bar. I'm like, I gotta do 9.
Gotta have 9 cocktails when you come.
So I want to back this up for a
Yeah.
second because I think you like breezed right through this, and there are a lot of people just their minds exploded. So what you're talking about is a technique called fat washing, right?
Technically, this is it's
Yeah.
it's similar in the sense that you're letting something kind of meld and separate, but this is clarifying.
Okay.
And there's a lot of different ways to do it. We do it like the old school manual way, which is when you combine everything together. What'll happen is and I'm not a chemist, by the way. This is just but the acids from the juice react with the fats in the milk, and they'll start to like curd and
making
separate.
cheese,
Yeah, they'll start to curd and separate a little bit.
Interesting.
And then if you let that kind of just sit for a while and then run it through some filters, it'll take the solids and the milk proteins out, and you're just left with that clear cocktail.
Very cool.
A lot of people nowadays who can afford it have a essentially it's called a spinzall. It's like a centrifuge for
Okay.
cocktails or liquids, but they're getting used in bars a lot now for clarification. Essentially, you just pour the whole mixture in, and it centrifuges out the solids much faster. We do it the old school
We
way.
do the old school drip way.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah.
Until
and-
someone donates
Yeah.
a centrifuge.
yeah. If anyone out there
If Spinzall
is-
wants to sponsor
I was, as
this
also
one.
as Joe was explaining the clarification, I was just thinking about someone on YouTube commenting on him and being like, "Dude, that's not
Like,
exactly."
I mean,
actually.
I'm
I am
sure-
a chemist, and I can tell you that's not what that.
I'm sure someone knows way more than I.
No,
I mean, I
it's-
know what I know, and that's
Yeah.
That's all
a
I know.
tiny little bit.
I
and-
can tell you for someone that's just enjoying the cocktail and like not understanding it, like the silky texture Joe is talking about, it is so unique and it's so just pleasant. Like it just when you get to play with the body of a cocktail, which is something that like I guess like you can always throw shit in there to change like some other forms of it, but it's just something that's an added unique experience to that level. And then obviously most importantly, it just tastes so good. So I think you guys did an incredible job.
Thank
on
you.
How
that.
long does that process take?
It takes
Couple days.
it takes a few hours and a couple days. I mean, like we let it sit pretty much overnight just because I make it one day, clarify it the next day. But I mean, realistically, it probably only needs to sit for a few hours, and then the drip process can take a while. You need a little patience. I think I've heard people describe it as labor intensive, which I don't think is really the right way to describe it.
patience and
It just
time.
it just takes
Takes
time
time.
and patience. So it's
Yeah.
like let that happen, go
Yeah.
use your time effectively and do something else, and then come check on it and do all that. So
That's awesome.
And then when you're working on the bar, is it easier?
I mean
it's a full
it's
batch.
full batch. So I mean that cocktail's in a bottle,
nice.
one touch.
Yeah, it's like ready to serve.
So that's the
essentially.
other reason I really liked it, and kind of I think like gravitated towards those things when I was first tasting them, and like then learned how they were made, was that like I'm really always about like speed and efficiency behind the bar.
Yeah.
And I like the idea that it's so complex, but like all that work is done behind the scenes, and then it's really easy like during service. Also, like when you're working fast and stuff, like things like milks and creams and all that, like can kind of coat your tins and
Yeah.
your tools and your vessels, and I like the idea that this is just kind of like a clean one pour thing, so you get
love
all that
that.
flavor of the coconut milk without having to wash it out all the time or anything like that.
I want one right now.
Yeah, we should have brought you some. I'm sorry. That's on us.
It's not too early.
I do have a question about another cocktail, the one where you have the cheating death
Yeah.
with the Chinese 5-spice. How are you incorporating that into a cocktail? Chinese 5-spice.
We essentially make infusion.
We're making an infusion, so we're
Yeah.
essentially making kind of like a cordial out of it with the whole spices.
Like what exactly?
What five are in our mix
no,
of five?
no, we're like wondering how do you like eliminate that grainy experience of the powder?
Oh, we
Use-
use
using-
whole- we
using
use
whole spice.
spices instead of we don't
Instead
use
of the powder,
we
you use whole
We
s-
infuse with whole
whole
spices.
spice.
Gotcha. So then
Oh
you're
my
just straining it all
God.
out. Interesting.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, no powder. We tried it. I think the first time that we did
Yeah, we had
the
tried-
pop up, we had done it with powder.
I think we tried to make a syrup.
We made a syrup maybe out of
Instead,
it, and
yeah.
then eventually, like, through some trial and error and R&D, we wound up at this current structure.
Cool. I want to kind of like peel back for a second on just like 9 Bar for as a whole. Like, what do you guys like? I guess what's your elevator pitch on this, right? When someone runs into you and says, "What's your bar about?" And then second to that is like, what do you want people to really experience and feel when they come and visit you guys at your business?
You want to take the pitch?
No, you take it.
I think we describe it as Asian-ish.
Yeah.
So we describe it as like an Asian-ish cocktail bar.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of reasons, like you were saying, I think the idea is for it to feel like us in there and like be able to incorporate everything that we've kind of done and learned and how we like to make drinks, which is not always adhering to one thing.
Yeah.
So we like that ish
I love that.
aspect so that we can kind of play with things, and then no one holds you too heavy to tradition then if you're just kind of pulling inspiration here and there,
Yeah.
Again, respectfully always. But we like to use a lot of bitter spirits, and I use a ton of Amaro and things like that in our drinks. So and that's, although they do have a lot of spices, and there is this interesting connection. I'm gonna nerd out for a minute of like
You got to bring in the Italian
of
somewhere
course,
in there.
right?
You know what I mean?
Again,
So,
it's got to feel like us, right?
I love that. Yeah.
But there is this interesting connection to like the spice trade and things like that, and ingredients from elsewhere. Even though Amaro can be kind of hyper focused and hyper regional, like in the Cheating Death, we use Zucca, which is an Amaro whose primary bittering agent is Chinese rhubarb root.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
there's always those little winks and nods at other
love that.
things.
Yeah, I think we do. We do like to use the word Asian-ish because I knew going into Chinatown and going in with this concept, we wanted it to be Asian-inspired, but we didn't want to kind of like pigeonhole ourselves into being like, well, this is an Asian bar; it's only Asian, because that's not true. Because half of it is Joe, and we do like to try to incorporate a lot of Asian ingredients where we can, but like he was saying, we also use a lot of Amaro and other ingredients too.
And everything, tequila, everything,
tropical ingredient. Yeah.
Also, there's that mix of the kind of, or that through line from like Chinese American restaurants and kind of these quasi tiki Polynesian tropical drinks,
yeah.
whatever we're currently calling them. There's that connection through the years. But yeah, also like Lily was saying, like if we came out and said like we're a Chinese bar in Chinatown, and then we want to use sake in a drink, I'm sure someone's gonna say like, well, that's not
YouTube comments.
Yeah, YouTube comments gonna say that's not
those
Chinese.
Goddamn YouTubers.
So,
but like I don't think of like I don't go to Katana Kitten and go like, oh, I'm in an Asian bar, right? Like
which is another bar we love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Like and I like Double Chicken Please is kudos to those guys, incredible work. And it's like I don't go in
doesn't
there and
feel- yeah,
feel
you don't
like,
feel like you're in an
oh,
Asian
I'm in an Asian bar,
Right,
Like,
exactly.
You guys have it's the same thing for me. Like when I walk into 9 Bar, it's like I see those elements and I see those touches, but it just feels like a fucking cool cocktail bar.
That was I think that was our hope. Even through the decor and things like that. Like we didn't want to go
Yeah, so
super.
definitely our goal was fucking cool cocktail.
There you go. That's what I would change to. Asian-ish fucking cool cocktail bar.
New elevator
Yeah,
pitch.
Google's got to add that category onto their business listings.
But
So,
we wanted to have those like winks and nods, and there's a lot of stuff that we even pulled from the old Moon Palace space that's in there. But like we didn't want to kind of like hit you over the head with the kitsch
Yeah.
Yeah.
and like be like, oh, okay, I see what you're going
Yeah,
for.
deciding what is too kitschy and not has been it's like an ongoing thing of like
Right.
something going on the back bar. It's like, is it too on the nose, or are we like, can
I
we
love
put this
that.
on?
Can we lean into this a
Yeah.
little bit, or should
Yeah.
we, you know?
But I mean, all jokes aside, like being a fucking cool cocktail bar, like that was kind of, we were just trying to make somewhere that we would like to hang out
Right.
at with drinks that we would enjoy. It is really like us as a bar.
I think if you know us
Yeah.
and you walk into that place, I think it feels
Like
like
us,
us.
yeah.
But as far as like to answer your other question of like what we hope people would experience coming
Yeah.
in there, you know, like I don't think either of one of us, we've worked at these type of places, but like our style is not like the come in and like watch the bartender
Yeah.
kind of atmosphere. Like we want a lot of other things to be happening too. So like, you know, we're trying to have, you know, there's good food, there's good drink, there's good music. Like we want you, like if you guys come in, like we want to get you drinks quickly so like you can enjoy them and then like converse with each other or
Yeah.
hang out with other people, you know, dance if you want to. Like you don't have to be like standing there and sitting there and like watching us work.
We will still be watching you
I
guys.
would- yeah. Like,
I mean, but-
if we were
which-
there, yeah, we're on your pass and we're watching you work the entire time.
Well, thank you. But
Every
you know,
pickup.
I think that's one part of it. You know,
Yeah.
like
I love that.
again, like back to the community thing too. Like we're always seeing how it fits into the whole.
Yeah.
Like
we have
there's
a really diverse crowd.
yeah.
And I think some people do come in and watch us, but I think some people are just, they're like, oh, we were just having dinner down the street. We're just here to grab a drink. And,
Yeah.
you know, maybe they wander in and they don't know what we're about, which is totally fine. We want to kind of appeal to everyone. But if for someone who's maybe walking in off the street and just want a quick drink, like,
Or just wants a beer or something like
Right.
yeah, we
shouldn't-
want to have
You
that.
shouldn't have to wait 15 minutes because we were doing some like crazy technique
Absolutely.
heavy thing, you know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I
like,
want
at
you
the
to
end
have
of
a
the
drink and
day-
enjoy your night.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the guest is here to have a good time, and we want to, like, the drink is just a small part of that puzzle.
I love that, and I think it's like you guys nail it. It's a good balance of the two. You know, just like two things that came to mind when you were talking about that is like our experience at Paradiso and Sips in Barcelona,
Barcelona.
Oh, yeah.
and Rome, and like Paradiso, incredible, but like
It's so dramatic.
oh my
It's-
god, I have,
There's
I
like
have
a
a video.
bubble.
Yeah.
I have a video of
Yeah.
them making my cocktail, and I'm like running out of like fucking memory card, just like watching them make this one drink. And
But it does take a lot of time. Like now that you say that, I wouldn't even have thought about that because we like to watch.
Yeah, we do.
But there's a lot of times where we're watching and it could be like 20 minutes that goes by and we still don't have a drink and we're just like very focused in. It could take away from like conversation and just
Yeah,
like
for sure.
enjoying our time.
yeah,
But again, I think that's like, you know, the idea of what a cocktail bar could be is such a large, you know, like umbrella at this point
Yeah.
that like there's so much under that umbrella that like there are all those different places, and I think there's room for all of that.
Yeah.
It's just not what we choose to do. Like we're not going to do the bubbles and all that kind of stuff and
Yeah.
smoke and whatever. But you know, I think if you know that going into it, like those places are really enjoyable. Like Paradiso is amazing.
Yeah.
Also, like no one throws cocktails like the Europeans do. Like the throwing technique of like
Yeah.
like
It's
every
cool.
time I'm like impressed by it. They're so
Yeah.
good at that. And
They're such good dancers, too, while they do it. I could never do that.
It's a lot of fun. It's
Yeah,
a lot,
yeah.
it's a different type of atmosphere for sure. But I
Yeah.
love that you guys are kind of seeing the needs of the community and
Right.
where you are.
well,
and
that's another thing about like coming into a community in a neighborhood that maybe didn't have a bar. Like I
Yeah,
think if you
something like
if
that
you
just
come in
really
and went
makes-
like
yeah.
super kind of
yeah,
cocktail technique forward like that, I think it may have been too much.
yeah,
And so I think we were lucky that like the way that we like to work also aligned with maybe what
yeah.
would work best in the neighborhood at that time. But yeah, just happy accident maybe.
that.
I don't know.
Maybe that's the second venture, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
go
like more
super-
Benfitic. Like there's
Yeah.
like 12 seats in there, and
Maybe.
that's it. And
Maybe.
yeah,
I mean, as I get older, working fast is not as easy as it once was. So maybe
those elbows,
slowing
and
down
knees, man.
and 12 seats is the way to go.
Yeah.
What, because you guys are working behind the bar,
Mm-hmm.
what are some, now that you are owners, what are some things that are different now in the way that you bartend?
I mean, you got to be paying attention to more, I think, right? Like, although I think, you know, I would maybe argue that, like, what prepared us most for that was that, like, we maybe always had that in us a little bit of, like, you know, all bartenders need to be able to multitask, same as if you're in the kitchen, right? Like you need to know what's going on at all times, but there's definitely more that pulls your attention away, but I think it's just a little more difficult now. You got to balance it a little better and kind of juggle a little
You're
more in your
managing the
head,
room as well as working
as just
service.
your station.
I
And,
think
yeah.
before, you know, if you're just bartending, you can just kind of go in and turn your brain off. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm here at this well, and this is my area, and like that's all I really need to worry about. But now it's kind of like if one of us if we're behind the bar, it's like, yes, I'm doing all that, but on top of that, I need to, you know, make sure everything else is running smoothly.
Yeah.
It's funny. I remember early on, like the first few months and stuff, when we were, you know, our inventory was a lot lower and we were kind of doing things more by the day. I remember like having our first like really busy Saturday night, and like halfway through, I was working it, you know, and I'm like, I'm in the mix of it, and I'm like, this is awesome. Like we're selling a bunch, people are here, and then I'm like seeing all like everything depleting, and I'm like, oh shit, I gotta come in and make all this tomorrow before service now, because
Instead
we're
of
going
just a little prep list
we're
to the
going
next
through
day.
it all, like so that kind of thing where it's like I actively have a prep list in my head while I'm working that night.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
love that. I want to touch on this because I think it's really cool as like this being your first venture, you know, and I definitely had my like big moment here at our restaurant, and I even pulled Andy like off the fucking window one night, and I was like, dude, you got to just come out here. And he's just like, what? Like he probably had a full rail of tickets, and I just like brought him out here to the dining room, and I just wanted him to look at this room. It was like one of the first times Perillo was like fucking packed. And I just like pulled him and I was like, dude, like look at all these people that are fucking here to, you know, eat your food, like, and be a part of what we've created here. Has there been like, you know, or what is maybe the most rewarding aspect of, you know, running 9 bars since you guys have opened it? Have you guys had like these moments where, you know, it's just a huge celebration between the two of you that like, you know?
Yeah, I think we've had a few. It still feels very surreal, and I'm sure you understand that. But we do get those moments every once in a while. I can't exactly think of the first one, but there's definitely days where like an event goes smoothly, or like, you know, we have a busy night and everything just kind of, you know, went smoothly, or I don't know, just, you know, that time where you're looking around the room, everyone's having a good time, it feels full, it's like it's busy, and it's like, and if we're both there at the same time, like we definitely have those moments where we're just kind of standing on the side and being like, all right, people
People are digging it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's humbling, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
first
it
time you
is.
see that kind of happen, and
is.
I think we were conscious early on of like trying to like, you know, so much of when you first open is just like go, and like I said before, of like you're working and you're the prep list for the next day and everything you got to do, right? But it is important to kind of like take a little step back and sort of enjoy that part of it as well. But yeah, I think Lily said surreal, and that there was definitely like when that idea lives in your head for so long, I think to then see it become its own thing, and then
Right.
like, you know, it's not really yours anymore. It's everybody's and yours, and like, you know, like people are interacting with it in a different way, and like to see it be its own sort of living, breathing thing
I love that.
was really humble. And then I mean, I just had that like the same kind of feeling like last weekend. It was like a busy Saturday, and I was behind the bar, and I was like, you know, back turn, like putting things in the POS, and I heard like the music going and like people talking, and I was like, oh shit, this is like, this is our thing. People are here for our thing, you know? It's like,
so cool.
It's
and
cool,
also,
yeah.
I think with my parents being there, Joe kind of said this funny thing once about like immigrant dads, that they're so, when you're a kid, they're so tough.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden one day you're an adult and this like kind of switch goes off and they just become the biggest softies in the world. Yeah, like everything.
they get really emotional like past 60.
Yeah, like Joe's dad is not an immigrant, but he was like that, and he like sometimes he'll just be like, "Oh, I just missed you so much," and Joe's like, "What do you mean you missed me?" But like my dad is like the biggest softie now, and it's like
I love
it's almost
that.
like every day he's like he'll
He's
come up to
proud.
me
He's
and be
proud
like,
of
"I'm
you
so
guys."
proud." Like yeah,
Yeah.
he's just so happy all the time now. So having my parents there, like that's a big thing for me too.
I think like also just like him seeing you guys take what they've worked so hard and like, you know, preserve it in some way and change it, and to see it, the legacy continue must be a big big deal for them. So.
Yeah, and you talk about, and there's a lot of talk about, right, this certain generation that has all these businesses and who's going to take over it. Even when we were in Korea, there was all these amazing restaurants, and everyone that was working there was probably 60 to 70 plus years old.
Yes.
And then you think about who's going to take over it, and you automatically in my head, I'm like, who's going to take over the restaurant?
Yeah.
But the fact that you guys did like, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't even have thought, like,
Right,
let's
right.
do a cocktail bar.
Flip this business. Yeah.
Flip it into something that's like your dream and that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
Thank you. I think we could touch on that a little bit, because that was, I think, when it became more apparent that like maybe this was a real possibility of like us taking over. There was definitely a moment where I think we had a conversation like, are we nuts? Like, should we just, like, the restaurant was good as is, right? Like,
Yeah.
should we just keep doing that? Or do we do what we know and kind of move it in a different direction? And I think the more we looked at it, I think there was maybe a shelf life on what was going on
Yeah.
under the current model, and that things were going to have to change in some way, shape, or form to kind of move it forward.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, well, if we're going to change it slightly, I don't think either of us want to run like a full-scale restaurant. Like, so if we're going to change it slightly, we should do what we know, again, so it feels authentic to us. So
love that.
it's more in our wheelhouse. So once it became apparent that it needed, I think that there was maybe, even if it was 5-10 years down the line, that there was going to have to be maybe a bigger change to it.
Yeah.
It made more sense to just do it our way, I guess.
Yeah.
It definitely transports you too. I remember, I never met you guys, but I had a girls' night and we were gonna go do karaoke, and I was like, yeah, Thomas just told me about his friend. They just opened 9 Bar. I think this was like within the first couple, I would say 2022, like that winter. And I remember going in and being like, okay, where's the entrance? And it's Moon, like, just to paint the picture, it's
yeah,
like
that's
bright
right.
lights because it's Moon Palace where they're serving the food. And I think your parents were there. And I remember you actually like opened the door to let us in. And it was just like one of those like moments where you're just like transported because everything's dark and there's like the neon lights
Like a
and
speakeasy
yeah,
experience.
and it was such an amazing experience, and the cocktails were like delicious. I even remember the one with I'm not sure what it was called, but it was in a coupe and it had the matcha.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like I try so many drinks with matcha, and I'm just like, I don't know, it just doesn't hit, and you don't taste it, but I really loved it. And what I'm trying to get to is your, like, the food in the front and then the bar in the back. And I know you guys are serving food at 9 Bar. Is it everything is from Moon Palace?
Yeah. Whose recipes are the?
Yeah, so the kitchen is shared. There's like kind of like a 9 Bar side, Moon Palace side.
Oh, okay.
But
cool.
it's still the same kitchen.
Yeah.
Our chef is Elvis Mom. He's Cambodian, and I actually worked with him at Frontier probably in like 2015, I think. Long time ago.
Elvis?
Elvis with an E.
E.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're
Elvis. Oh yeah.
Elvis.
I actually know a line cook named Elvis. That's why I was like, is it that
Yeah.
guy? But
yeah, I think
Elvis.
I think I actually just met him recently.
I love that.
Anyways, yes, Elvis. And so when we were operating as a pop-up, we had some foods that were like really doing really well. And we were like, okay, these are probably like the couple things we want to see on this menu.
Yeah.
And then we were like, the rest is kind of up to you, but like, here's the parameters. It like has to obviously work in this kitchen, but we want to keep it like Asian flavors. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't, have to be super Asian, but
It's gonna lean a little more towards like the bar side. Like things
Yeah.
that are easy to eat if you're
Yeah.
Like, no-
maybe standing up, like
Yeah,
not
not
full
a
dinner
steak or
service,
something.
kind
Right.
of,
Yeah.
Right.
but things that
With your
were easy.
hands.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Quick to execute, easy to eat, stuff like that. So
What's one thing on the menu for each of you that you guys really love? And I have to ask about the what is it?
Mikatsu.
The Mikatsu.
That's
I love the name, by the way.
That's Lily's creation.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
so-
Is that from the original
Yeah.
Lily Sandoz?
yeah, we were. I mean, I love McDonald's,
Who doesn't?
But-
Greatest restaurant in the world.
Oh, really?
but it's
Whoa.
kind of like it's just a katsu sandwich with like stuff on it that I like. But it does kind of, the sesame seed bun and the American cheese really does kind of make it taste a little bit like McDonald's. But
Okay.
yeah, we just tried it one day when we were a pop-up, and it was like a huge hit. It had sold out, and people were like, when are you doing this again? But at the time, it was just, Joe and I, and we were doing everything ourselves. So it was kind of like hard to really pump out a ton of sandwiches.
Yeah, we cooked during the pandemic.
Oh,
that was
geez.
us,
Yeah.
So we stepped behind
Yeah.
and did back of the house, which was
I
which is
remember
nuts.
picking up from you guys. It was like
yeah.
underneath the underpass, and I was just like, "Where the fuck am I?" And then I saw you walking out.
We like to keep it weird.
Yeah, I love that. Is there another menu item that you guys really love and want to share about?
Well, I love the wings.
General Jones.
General
wings.
Jones.
Yeah. So, I love eating wings at a bar. So it's the General sauce from the Moon Palace side.
Ooh.
So we do a couple of things that kind of are nods to
Crossover.
both. Yeah.
Right.
Like the crab rangoons are available at the bar, but also at Moon Palace. The bar uses like a different dipping sauce.
Yeah, Elvis is from Massachusetts, so we do like a duck sauce with it, which is like a real typical
Like New
kind of like
England
New England East Coast
fried Asian food dipping
Yeah.
sauce.
Interesting. Duck sauce and
They call it duck sauce, but
there's
it's
no
like
duck.
it's an apple-based
what the
sauce.
fuck?
Yeah, but
Okay.
it's like
good.
applesauce, ginger.
Those guys
Yeah.
up there in the
Soy,
Northeast.
But it's good. It works. But yeah, like for example, our cauliflower, we use the orange sauce from like orange chicken and like make a vegan fried cauliflower dish from it. But I really love the wings because, well, one, I love wings, but two, it's kind of a nice bridge for the two.
Yeah.
They're cooked in the wok with my dad's like General sauce, which is why we call them General Jones wings.
So they're sticky.
Yeah.
They're sticky.
Yeah.
They're
Sticky and
super
delicious.
crispy, sticky, a little bit spicy.
All right.
Yeah, I like the food idea. I feel like it's hard to find good food at a bar. And I feel like Asian culture, even Italian, when you go out to drink, there's snacks and people are like, you can buy food. And I feel like it just creates a better environment for a bar too, where people aren't just getting hammered. It's like,
Right.
it's like order some food and like have a good night and not make it this aggressive, like,
I mean, if you got some fried pork in your belly,
Yeah.
you can have 9 clarified
exactly.
no punches.
And you'll still be good.
I love that like you guys do emphasize the food portion too, because it's like there's a lot of bars that I mean like I used to go to Money Gun and we would just go and crush food as much as we would go there to drink. So I love the idea of like making this place not only just accessible for somebody that wants to come and have a cool, awesome cocktail, but someone that wants to like delicious food in just a really cool space, in a awesome neighborhood.
Thank you.
I do want to transition us into a little game we've got prepared for you. So before we reveal this, you can bring it over with, so we're going to get some spittoons for you guys. It's going to be an honor system here. So I need you guys
You
to...
don't have to spit, by the way. It's like, it's very little. It's like an ounce. of
Yeah.
each.
Well, some of this is okay. So let me give some premise here for people that
Maybe
are
you wanna spit.
listening. First and foremost, head over to our YouTube channel so you can watch.
Oh, you guys
This
aren't
little-
going to be participating.
We are not going to participate. But so what
Are we doing honor system?
The honor system. So here's the setup. We have 6, I would say, ingredients that can be found behind most bars.
Okay.
We have, like, I'll call it, we'll just be fair and say it's mixers. With,
Let's just say
okay,
you would find
ingredients.
these in a
Okay.
Wait, do they have alcohol?
So
I don't
some
know.
of them
Oh,
do
God, okay.
contain
I didn't know.
alcohol.
Okay, just making sure.
Some of them do contain alcohol. So what I'm going to have you guys do is this. Once we are ready, I'm going to have you close your eyes.
Okay.
All right? You're on camera. So if you're going to cheat, they're all going to see you.
We were gonna bring blindfolds, but
Yeah, it was.
we didn't have any.
Yeah.
Thomas, can I share what you said?
What?
He was like,
Please
"Should
do.
we wash our eye mask that we?"
Oh, yeah.
I was like, "Can we not wash the eye mask that we sleep with and let them wear it? It's
So-
freaking weird."
All right, so here we go. So first one, we're going to have you close your eyes, guys.
Okay.
This is number 1. So the way it's going to work is we're going to let you guys taste this ingredient. All
Let me
right?
get my spit.
You can-
ready. Just
Oh,
in
spit.
case.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay.
Joe, we're going to get to your Oh,
wait,
Did I knock it over?
No, you're good. You're good. The spittoon is on your
Wait,
left.
how close
Okay.
is the cup to me?
It's right,
Okay,
right
I
there.
feel it. I feel it. Okay.
I love
my
this.
hands
All
ready.
right, so guys, we're gonna let you taste this one. Everything's gonna be in a shot glass.
Is it really full? Should I-
No,
Okay,
there's-
just don't wanna
I poured
spill.
just a very little bit. So once you guys can taste it, Joe, you can go ahead.
Okay.
And then on the count of 3, I'm gonna ask you guys to tell us what that ingredient is. All right, and it's
We have the same thing.
Yeah.
the same thing. So it's Lily versus Joe here.
Ooh.
All right,
Okay, I think
winner
this-
gets
Can I
respect.
say?
All right,
What-
on the count of 3. On the
Oh.
count of 3. Here we go.
But then if you say it faster.
Okay. Oh, I can see Joe's like processing. It's like you can see it working. Okay. Yeah, a little chunky. On 3, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Say
Unstrained lemon juice.
Wait.
What did you say?
Lemon.
Lemon. Okay, wow. And
said
I'm almost
unstrained
going to give
Unstrained
Lily.
lemon
I'm going to give Lily like an extra point, half a point there. I was like, why are these bartenders not straining? I'm like, what the fuck? All right,
That's okay.
You guys both got that answer though.
That was
Correct.
lemon?
So,
Okay.
yeah.
You know,
I
sometimes it
open
is
my eye?
very difficult
Yes, you can open your eyes
to
right now.
taste between lemon and lime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Very good. Very, very good.
Also, sorry I cut you off when you were talking about check us out on YouTube.
Oh, no. You're good.
I'll
You're
let you-
good.
You can finish. your-
No, we shout it out every week. All right, so here we go.
right,
Close
eyes
your
closed.
eyes.
Okay.
We got number
Close
2.
your
Wait, hang on. Can I take a drink of water first?
Yes. Ooh.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Since you're just drinking straight up.
You shouldn't have said that out loud. She would have, you would have got that.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
I forgot we're competing.
Yeah, here we go. Ingredient number 2 is coming down in front of you. There it is.
Thank you.
Is it in
There
front
it
of me?
is.
Okay,
I got it.
Okay, guys, please enjoy. Ooh. Joe's got he's smelling it.
Okay.
Okay, I think we have an answer from Joe. We're gonna go on 3 here, guys. 1, 2, 3.
Lime.
All right.
Nice.
Very good. Very good. All right. You guys can relax the eyes if it's all right. Here we go. Number 3. We're gonna get eyes closed. Here we go.
I'll just
So
put
far
my
it's-
hands in
so
the
far
eyes closed, hands out.
Yeah.
It's 2 for 2. Both of these 2. All right. Now we're gonna get into. We're moving up here. All right. So you can go ahead and smell it and give it a taste.
Wait, sorry, I need a second.
Ooh. Okay. Wow. Joe's confident.
He's ready.
Not to put any pressure on you, Lily, but okay, here we go. On 3, 1, 2, 3.
Honey
Demerara.
syrup.
Oh, honey. You're right, it's honey. Oh, fuck, I knew it right. As soon as you said honey, I knew it.
We have a
like,
lead,
"Damn
ladies
you."
and gentlemen. We have a lead. And so for those of you that didn't hear that, Joe said the correct answer. That was honey syrup. Joe is up 3-2 in the lead. So we've got ingredient number 4 coming. So here we go.
It's not fair. You eat honey every day.
I was waiting for the shit talk. I was
Okay.
like, anytime
All right,
now.
guys. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna give you guys a little hint. here.
No,
Whoa.
no hint.
I'm just saying leveling up. Where this is getting harder.
Okay, we're leveling.
This
No
is this is
hint.
just getting harder.
Yeah, come on.
Okay, here we go, guys. Go ahead and give it a taste. This one has alcohol, so don't shoot the whole thing. All right. Ooh,
Oh.
I'm gonna give you guys a little extra time on this one to really process this. Process this.
Whoa.
Okay.
Currently.
Here we go.
I'm-
Okay,
I'm
let
not
me
ready.
give me. Okay, why don't you guys give me like a nod that you guys are feeling good about your answer? It's okay.
Are you ready? Do you have
This
an
one.
answer,
This one's
Joe?
hard.
No, but I can. I'll
I'll
make
make up something.
I'll make a guess.
Okay,
Yeah.
here we go. On 3, 1, 2, 3.
grapefruit
Grapefruit
vodka.
liqueur. Yeah.
Ooh. You know, you guys are actually very close, but you guys are both wrong.
Oh.
Wah, wah, wah. It is Cointreau.
Cointreau.
Oh,
It
okay.
is. Oh, it's really grapefruit.
Cointreau. That is a
We're bad.
orange liqueur, but they're very close, guys. Very good, very good. All right,
getting a lot of
I promise we have 2 more, and
It's probably because I didn't have a sip of.
the water. Oh. Okay, the score is still 3-2 as it stands, ladies and gentlemen. We have 2 more ingredients left. Here we go with the second to last one. I'm gonna just tell you that this one is hard. It's meant to be hard. This is my curveball. This is my personal curveball in here. Okay, guys, give it a little sniff and a sip. I'm gonna throw it over the palate. Really take this one in. I would say most people wouldn't get this.
Are you ready?
I feel like Ed and Alexis had it easy compared to this one.
I don't know if I'm ready.
Okay. Oh, Lily.
Oh.
Lily's confident.
I don't know. I could
Okay.
I could guess something.
Okay.
I could throw a guess out there.
Here we go. Are you guys ready? We got something. We got something to go for. Okay.
I'm kind of stumped, but
Yeah.
I'll guess something.
On 3, 1, 2, 3.
Sweet for
Ch-
both.
I think it's a. I'm gonna say. No, I'm gonna say it's Blanc vermouth.
Ooh.
Yeah, I said sweet for both.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna tell you guys this. You guys can open your eyes. This one.
This isn't fair.
This one is hard. This is Cokie Americano.
Okay.
Which, for what it's worth, both of you
Blanc
guys were very, very close, and it is a Blanc vermouth. So I think we're gonna give Joe that point there. So we're gonna go 4-2 on Joe. Okay. Ooh, I like that. Okay, so Lily, you're not out of this game yet, because this next
Stole
one.
my answer. I said vermouth, and you were like, yeah.
Yeah,
This is true.
that is true.
All right, close your eyes.
But it's okay. I can
This
let Joe
is
win.
this is number. This is the final
I can let Joe
ingredient.
win.
Okay.
I'm not
And I would
competitive,
say,
so-
Joe, it's on your. There we go. We got it in hand. Okay, they are tasting.
Snap.
The pressure is on this one because all the marbles. Our producer Andy Lim said this is for all the marbles. This is plus 3 points for this one. So the score as it stands is right now 4-2.
4-2.
Joe
Okay, quick question.
Briglio.
We have a
4.
question. We have a-
Giuseppe Briglio.
What is the question?
Is it a, like, would we say a category or a brand? Like for the last one?
Ooh,
I'm
you
gonna
know
say
what? If you
brand.
get the let's do this.
You know- you're that confident?
If you get
No, no, I'm not.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I
the
if
fact
you
that he
get-
turned his head to talk shit with his eyes still closed.
That's how he talks to me at home. He does this
With
thing
his
where
eyes
he talks
closed?
to me with it scares me, and he knows that it scares me, so he does it all the time.
This is actually true.
I love that. All right. If you say the category, I'll give you a point. If you say the brand, you get 3.
Oh.
Let's
what?
do that.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Oh.
I kind of. I don't know.
Okay. Here we go. On 3, 1, 2, 3.
I think it's a gentian liqueur. What do you think? Is that what you were gonna say? I think it's.
No.
Oh, okay. What were you gonna say?
Honestly, I'm blanking.
Okay.
Okay, I think it's a gentian liqueur.
We're
Follow
we're just gonna go with
I open my eyes?
a Joe says nothing.
Joe,
on this.
Joe,
Say
you got
nothing.
this.
I opened my eyes, but
Okay.
I didn't look at the thing.
All right,
yet.
you
I
guys
just
can open
looked
your
away.
eyes. This is
Seeing the color,
Yeah. how
Does
does
about
that change anything?
I know what it is now. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it a vase?
No, I think it's the Apolog saffron.
Oh, interesting. Shout out to Epilogue. Part of Cocktail Collective. Actually,
See what I did
this
there?
is, I see what you did there. This is
Amaro Montenegro.
Amaro Montenegro.
You love mine.
It is
I should
my-
have got that. I should have got that.
You'll never
Sorry,
forget now.
Joe, I didn't want to put any extra pressure on
I
the
know.
Italian there,
That's
but
okay. I should have got that. I'm disappointed in myself
cut
now.
that out. He's gonna be so
I'm
embarrassed.
disappointed.
that's a real, guys. That one's the okay.
Okay, but-
thank you for playing.
But Joe
of
did
course.
win.
Joe did
Yeah,
win.
Joe-
Congratulations.
Just barely. Just barely.
Fantastic effort, guys. We have some closing questions from our
Instagram.
a couple of Instagram
Okay.
listeners, subscribers. For all you guys out there that are not yet, please do. Go ahead.
Chio Takamoto, being one of the first standalone bars in Chinatown, how do you go about developing your cocktails? And then a side note is, with so many accounts that I visit, I know some accounts want to be more adventurous with their creativity when it comes to their program, but feel like they have to somewhat stick to their status quo to be approachable for their customer base. So how do you go about developing your cocktails?
That's a Joe question.
Well, I think we were lucky in the sense, I mean, like one of the silver linings of doing all of this like through a pandemic was like we got to kind of R&D in real time. And then we had, you know, also the previous Lunar New Year pop-ups to kind of pull from the opening menu. So we kind of got to open with sort of like what we kind of considered maybe like our greatest hits. But I think as a whole, interesting but approachable is always how I kind of describe everything. It's
love
like
that.
it needs to, you know, again, like with the milk punch or something like that, right? Like a lot of the work can be done on the back end, but it needs to read pretty simple and pretty approachable. People got to know what they're getting into. And at the end of the day, it's just got to taste good, right? So like
Right.
that's like the starting point of building your cocktail, right? It's got to be in balance. It's got to taste right, and then you can kind of have fun and deconstruct and reconstruct and doing all that, right? And when we like my style and I think our style, like when we put together a menu as a whole, like I'm also trying to think of like how do we execute it at all points of the night, right? Like it doesn't do us any good if like, which I'm sure is the same for you guys with food, and, you know, and Andy on the line, like. If you can't do it when the room is completely full,
Right.
then it doesn't make sense doing it, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't ever want to be like, well, that we only offer that at this time because of this, or, you know, I'm too backed up to get to that one, or,
Yeah.
you know, this is slowing me down. So that's one portion of it, is to make sure we can always execute at all points. The other thing is like I like to take away or try to like anticipate questions or like even take them away if I can. So like I don't like to reuse the same ingredient multiple times on a menu.
Yeah.
Like for instance, like if grapefruit, right? Like I wouldn't have 3 cocktails that have grapefruit in them. Because then if someone's reading that menu, they're like, well, I like grapefruit. How do I choose between it? You know? Like I want you to already, like if you're coming to us with a question and you're going to say, I want this one or this one, I want it to be a very, like if we're slow and I can talk you through everything and all the nuance, that's great, right? But if we're like at our busiest and I got to break it down as simply as I can and say like margarita or old fashioned, you know, like something like that. So it's always just kind of anticipating.
I think kind of on that note, when we were developing the menu, we do try to kind of have something for everyone. If you come in and you're like, hey, I don't really know what any of this is, like I don't really know what spirits this is or these ingredients, like I normally drink a margarita, what's something I would like? And that's kind of how we try to approach that. Like,
Yeah, there needs to be kind of a cocktail for every person.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, there's a lot of style of drinks, so maybe not every style of drink, but like you try to get to most of them. Like you've got your stirred whiskey, you've got your lighter vodka, you've got your kind of tropical style drink, you've got your margarita style, you know. We're
And
trying to hit all those areas.
To answer that kind of second part of Chio's question, where like for places that maybe want to try to be a little bit more adventurous but are maybe worried about what the guests, you know, reaction might be, I think there's definitely ways to incorporate things, and it's kind of following that same model. Like let's say there's an ingredient you really want to use but maybe people have never heard of it, try incorporating it with something that like people are more familiar with.
That,
if you're like, hey, I have this crazy spice, like try it in a margarita or something, you know, obviously it has to make sense.
Bridging the gap a little bit and making things a little bit
Package it
easier.
in a more
in the
digestible,
approachable,
I love that.
description or something. Or I think it's totally okay if like, you know, let's say 9 out of 10 of your drinks are quote unquote safe. If you have one that's a little bit more out there, because every once in a while there is going to be that more adventurous drinker, even if you are in a place that is not a very like adventurous bar, restaurant, or whatever. You know, there is going to be someone that's like, hey, I've tried most of these. What do you have that's like a little bit different? Like, I think it's okay to have
You can have some outliers.
a weird outlier. Yeah, if everything else is pretty safe.
If you also have the kind of crushers and the, you know.
It's very mature of you guys. Like, I mean that, I don't know if that's the right word, but it's very like, for those people that maybe don't understand that, it's like for me, like what I'm trying to explain is that it's like, it takes restraint and maturity to like create something that, like you mentioned earlier, that can be executed 100 times a night and be consistent every time. Whereas like you might want to be pushing yourself, and maybe it's like satisfying a little bit of the ego to like do things that are so far out there and so technically, you know, driven that it's just really hard to get that right even 5 times consistently. So
right, and
kudos to you guys.
And then you know, like you're saying, if you can't consistently execute that, it doesn't matter how many times.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you can make it taste amazing one time.
Right.
If you,
And I think
because if
that
1 out of
honestly-
5 people have it when it's good, what are the other 4 going to say?
Right.
You know, like that's not a good. That's
I
not
think
a good
that
ratio.
honestly comes from just like our experience. I think we've both worked at a lot of different types of businesses, and we kind of have gotten to see both sides of that. We've both worked places that are super high volume and you can just crank stuff out. We've also worked at places where maybe drinks are 4, 5, 6, 7 touches
Yeah.
and maybe require more time to make them with like larger menus. And I think we kind of are trying to find that balance in between because that's just what makes sense for us.
love
And that's
that.
just kind of who we are. And that's, we've kind of pulled a little bit of from both worlds to kind of find this middle ground.
Yeah. I
But
love that.
like you said, I think editing is one
Yeah.
of the hardest skills to kind of hone, and probably one of the most important. You know, you got to put that ego aside a little bit. You don't have
Yeah.
to. You don't have to flex on everything.
yeah.
You know.
But
I
I,
love
think that
that.
comes. I think that does come from, you know, working at the different types of places. It's like when you, I think every kind of bartender goes through this, like, life cycle where they're like, oh, I'm gonna, you know, I'm into bartending. I want to work at like a really nice cocktail bar, and then you go work at the really nice cocktail bar, and you're like, why does everything take so long to make? And it's like people tip, you know, especially if you work for tips, people tip you the same, whether it's a drink at the dive bar or they just watched you for 15 minutes to make a
Wow.
drink, they'll still tip you the
Yeah.
same, you know, because that's just, people just tip what they tip, you know.
Yeah.
They don't usually adjust it based on like what they're watching you do.
Yeah.
And then you kind of, you're like, okay, well, I learned that stuff. Like, I need to make money now. And then you kind of go work at the high volume place and
Yeah.
you're like, this is amazing. But then you kind of start to feel like you're not doing anything with your life. It's just like up and down. And we, I think, are fortunate.
Been through that a few times.
Yeah, we've been through up and down that roller coaster a few times. And, you know, now we're trying to find that balance.
Very cool. We have our next question from Nate Burrows.
Nate Burrows, 2424. As someone who's about to open their own bar, what would you say caught you most off guard when you first opened? And then, side note, love your spot and the red lighting in the bathroom.
Oh yeah, Nate.
I also love
Thanks,
the red lighting in the
thanks for the bathroom
Thank
shout
you.
out. That was, we also love the bathrooms.
I mean, I think every day you will get some kind of surprise. I had like an old manager one time that kind of, I don't know if it was necessarily advice or just words of wisdom, but he said that managing is like every day there's fires you need to put out.
Every day.
It's like every day there's a different fire put, and your whole job is just constantly putting out fires and deciding like which ones to put out first.
Yeah.
But I think some of the biggest challenges is like even if you have a really clear concept in mind or like you're very set on I want to do things this way, it's kind of like the conversation we just had. You kind of have to set aside your ego sometimes to play to the clientele in the neighborhood. It's like that's not to say like if you have everyone coming in and asking for like I don't know, something you really don't want to serve.
Right.
That's not to say you should compromise everything to do that, but there are times when you might have to be flexible if something's not working or if you need to change something.
I love that.
Yeah, I agree. It's staying true to what you want to do, but also being open to some feedback. You know,
Right.
You,
Yeah,
again,
being
you can't,
open
you,
to feedback.
You
yeah.
can't do it to the point where you change everything that you set out to do, unless you want to do that. If you decide, you know, that's what's right for my business. Cool.
Yeah.
But like, I'm looking at your fridge right now. Like, you know, if everybody came in here and was like, if you didn't have Coke and everybody was like asking, if every single person was
Right.
asking for Coke, you gotta decide.
Gotta
like,
bring
should
Coke.
should I bring Coke in,
Yeah.
or like, am I
Or, like,
really
I'm a
like,
hardcore
is that
Pepsi guy.
is that the hill I'm gonna die on, right?
Pepsi
Like,
people can stay away from this restaurant. So
Yeah, you kind of have to determine what things you will and will not compromise, and
Exactly.
Yeah.
that's important
I love
because
that.
that's obviously going to dictate the success of your business. Not to say that you should bend to everyone's will. The customer is not always right.
absolutely not.
They are very rarely ever right.
Yeah.
But you can be heard.
Yes,
You
but
just
yes.
might not be right. A lot of this ties into our final question here for you guys. And, you know, you're already sharing some great advice here to Nate Burrows. But if you could share some advice to your younger self, what would that advice be?
Drink more water.
I love that.
For real.
I'm kidding.
But really.
You should save more money.
Yeah, save more money.
Save more money when you have it.
I don't know. I'm one of those people who like views everything as a whole and feels like even mistakes and everything sort of lead you eventually to somewhere, like build that person that you're gonna be at that time, you know? But I think just, you know, in general, like for myself would probably be like, maybe don't take everything so personal. You know, like I've been better about that, like you said, with like reading reviews and things like that. And comments is just like, you know, maybe letting things slide a little more and not getting so worked up.
I love that.
That's a big one. Choosing the hill to die on, and that's like about everything really. It's like what things are really gonna stress you out and what things can you just let go. I think this was kind of, you know, one of the first things you asked us before we officially started recording, but it was like, what is something that's different, like as an owner now?
Right.
And it's like taking everything so personally,
Right.
just deciding like what can let go, because from the guest perspective, like not everyone is like us, where you're just constantly observing them working. Like a lot of times people come in and don't have any idea how anything in a restaurant or bar works, and they're there just like they're super oblivious, and it's like the things that we kind of hyper focus on, like like people don't even care or notice, and it's like just kind of choosing what to not stress about.
I love that. That's some.
But I mean, obviously finding the balance, because some things you have to care about. You can't just not care about anything.
It's a whole life of tug of war. It's like,
yes, exactly.
be mindful of every detail, but it's like, let it go.
Yeah,
you know, it's like constantly. I love that. And that's some beautiful advice. I want to talk about, I guess, where people can find you.
Instagram at 9bar Chicago. The website is also www.9barchicago.com. And then you can email them at info@9barchicago.com.
For any events that you guys want to host over at their bar.
And they're located at 216 West Cermak Road, Chicago, and behind the Moon Palace Express. And open every day except for Tuesdays.
Yep.
And
Every day except Tuesday.
You are having a New Year's Eve party called Low Key New Year's Eve, which
Hell
I
yeah.
love.
Yeah, we're just pretty much running regular service for New Year's Eve. So if you want somewhere chill to hang out, we'll be there.
I love that. We've got a little sponsor beverage from Cocktail Collective. It's a little gift here for the two of you for joining us today.
This is Apolog Saffron.
This, so we're gonna read this. This comes from Chio. For Lily and Joe, I really wanted to challenge myself with the Ming River Baijiu. I've had sitting in my liquor cabinet for a while, and I thought it might work well in a bitter cocktail. So what you have here is she calls it the Bitter Melon Negroni. And this is 1.5 ounces of Kuro Gin, 1 ounce of Maisu Bitter Aperitivo, 1/4 ounce of Ming River Baijiu, and 1/4 ounce of Chirot liqueur, which is, I believe, an aloe liqueur.
It is, yeah. Sounds awesome.
Yeah, you guys
Thanks,
can
Gio.
go ahead and
Thanks,
stir
Gio.
that up and enjoy.
Thank you, Cocktail.
Thank you guys both for joining us. We had such an incredible time, and Chicago, again, is super lucky to have the two of you and 9bar here in Chinatown. Ladies and gentlemen, Lily and Joe.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it.